After 750 grueling, high-intensity minutes of international tournament football, Spain accomplished something that seemed mathematically impossible in the modern 48-team World Cup. Facing a relentless gauntlet against powerhouses like Portugal, France, and Argentina, they surrendered just one single goal across the entire summer. Let's stop for a second and think about that. 8 matches against the greatest attacking talent on the planet, and the ball only crossed their goal line once. So my question is, how do you build a defense that mathematically breaks international football like how Spain did? While highlight reels and social media naturally gravitate towards Spain's dynamic wingers, the true story of this historic campaign unfolded in the central corridor of the pitch and inside Spain's penalty area. To understand how Spain constructed the most dominant defensive performance in the history of international football, you have to examine the player who dictated the tempo of every single match alongside a backline that operated with absolute mechanical perfection. But what most people missed is that this record shouldn't have even survived the first knockout round. Most defensive midfielders in modern football rely on raw physicality, aggressive tackles, hard fouls, and explosive recovery sprints to break up opposition attacks. Rodri operates on a completely different level of football intelligence. He controls the game through spatial geometry, anticipation, and body positioning. In Luis de la Fuente's tactical setup, central midfielders Pedri and Fabian Ruiz are granted complete creative freedom to push high up the pitch into the half spaces to support the front line. On paper, this aggressive structure leaves a massive 30-yard space of open grass directly in front of Spain's center backs. Against the standard defensive unit, opposing counter-attacking wingers and attacking midfielders will continuously feast on that vacant space. In practice, Rodri closes down that space before the opposition can even construct a pass. The moment Spain turns over possession in the attacking third, Rodri doesn't sprint blindly toward the ball handler. Instead, he reads the body language of the opponent, taking 2 or 3 sort of steps to his left or right to cut off the primary passing lane. That small, calculated adjustment deprives the opponent of their first option, forcing them into a rush decision and leading directly to a routine interception or a forced turnover. He neutralizes dangerous counterattacks at the exact moment of transition, long before they ever threaten the penalty box. As the tournament progressed into the late knockout rounds, opposing managers tried every tactical adjustment manageable to disrupt Rodri's rhythm. In the high-stakes semi-final against France, Didier Deschamps instructed 3 players to aggressively press Rodri. The second goalkeeper Unai Simón played the ball out from the back. Under intense physical pressure, most defensive midfielders are forced to play safe, backward passes, or boot the ball long up the field to avoid dangerous turnovers. Rodri did the exact opposite. Against France's elite pressing system, he recorded an astonishing 94% pass completion rate under high pressure, completing 112 progressive passes across the match and completely dictating the flow of the game. One sequence in particular perfectly encapsulated his genius. In the 65th minute of that semi-final, with France mounting severe pressure in search of an equalizer, Rodri received a hard pass inside his own penalty box with 2 French attackers closing in at top speed. Instead of panicking or clearing the ball out of bounds, he dropped his hip, executed a sort of body feint that sent both defenders flying off balance, and rode a crisp ground pass straight through the middle of France's pressing structure to Pedri. By holding onto the ball for those extra 2 seconds under extreme pressure, he completely dismantled France's momentum, forcing their entire team to sprint 60 yards back toward their own goal just to reset their shape. As vital as Rodri was to this system, no single midfielder wins a World Cup in isolation. By the time Spain reached the Final Four, it was pretty clear that their defensive line was operating at a historic level of synergy and discipline. At just 19 years old, Pau Cubarsí put on a defensive clinic throughout the entire tournament alongside veteran partner Aymeric Laporte. Cubarsí played with the tactical maturity of a seasoned veteran, stepping forward aggressively to win ground duels, intercept passes between the lines, and initiate play from the back. Laporte provided the physical muscle and sweeping coverage behind him, dominating aerial battles in the box and covering the space whenever Cubarsí stepped out to challenge attackers. Behind that formidable central pairing stood Unai Simón, who earned the tournament's Golden Glove award by keeping an incredible 7 clean sheets in 8 matches. Whenever an opponent managed to bypass Spain's midfield block or slide a pass past the center backs, Simón was there to snuff out the danger, committing 0 errors leading to shots across the entire 750 minutes of tournament play. The excellent communication and positional discipline between Cubarsí, Laporte, and Simón meant that Spain rarely looked stretched, panicked, or out of position, even when defending under sustained late-game pressure. Everything Spain had built throughout the tournament culminated in the grand finale against Argentina. Lionel Scaloni's tactical blueprint was designed entirely around finding Lionel Messi in the central pockets of space between Spain's midfield line and defense, allowing him to turn and pick out lethal passes for running attackers like Julian Alvarez. For 94 minutes of regulation time, Spain's suffocating defensive structure held Argentina to 0 shots on target. Lionel Messi was started the central service, repeatedly forced to drop all the way back to the halfway line just to get touches on the ball. When the match entered extra time, Spain maintained their physical conditioning and mental composure. In the 106th minute, it was Rodri who rose above the crowd to win a critical defensive header in his own penalty box, instantly starting the rapid transition attack that ended with Nico serving the ball across for Ferran Torres to score the World Cup winning goal. And the match ended 1-0, with Spain winning their second World Cup. And Argentina ended with 2 shots, but 0 shots on target in the entire 120 minutes. And then I also don't want to talk about controversy too much, but the way that Argentina reacted after the final whistle was completely disgraceful. The fact that Enzo Fernandez didn't want to get off the pitch when he got the red card, and Lionel Messi was trying to blame Cucurella for the Restiani rule when Cucurella was simply signaling that his teammate got hurt on the mouth, and then Paul literally fighting people after the final whistle were just completely disgraceful. But anyways, there's also one player I want to talk about, Lamine Yamal. Did he actually do something this tournament? Some people like to say that he didn't contribute to anything, he just had 1 goal against Saudi Arabia and just disappeared throughout the entire tournament. And in my opinion, he probably underperformed a bit compared to his expectations, but he didn't do that bad as some people say. Spain's style this World Cup was more build-up and controlling of the game. You know, Lamine Yamal's playstyle is being an explosive winger. But since he had to adjust fast. And it took some time for him, but he was completing his role very well, creating a lot of threat and creating a lot of chances. But now let's go back to Spain. How did they pull off the greatest defensive tournament run in history without breaking? They did it by letting Rodri control time himself, while Cubarsí and Simón slammed the door shut. Spain's 2026 World Cup campaign wasn't just built on technical brilliance or flair on the wings. It was forged on an impenetrable defensive foundation, orchestrated by Rodri and executed flawlessly by a world-class backline. A backline that no one expected to complete a masterclass performance. Was this Spain performance the single greatest defensive tournament run in the history of international football, or is there another historic World Cup team that you think tops it? Let me know your full thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you next video.